Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently we are in Isaiah chapter 42, and again, we're getting these revelations about the nature of God. They are snippets, okay? They do not answer all the questions, but they give us what we need to know if we are really reading them, if you're taking the time to read them. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to start from the beginning and read just for continuity of thought. But again, it gives us this verses 1 through 3 gives us a sort of revelation of the prophecy of the mannerisms of the Messiah or Jesus. And so he says, "This is my servant, I strengthen him. This is my chosen one, I delight in him. I put my spirit upon him, and he will bring justice to the nations." And we said, if you're looking at this, you will see this is a picture of Jesus when he comes the first time. The ultimate, of course, fulfillment of this will be in the millennial reign when he brings ultimate justice to the nations. And then verse 2, he will not cry out or shout or make his voice heard in the street. He will not break a bruised reed. He will not put a smoldering wick. He will faithfully bring justice. So again, you saw he won't be boisterous. He won't come with pomp. He won't come as a dignitaries how they come. Like now, when you think about even like now, if you watch how the president comes in for a state dinner, Jesus was not like that. His mannerisms, in a sense, he did not wear the warrior robes identifying him as the king. Okay. Um, Verse 4, he says, he will not grow weak or be discouraged until he has established justice on the earth. The islands will wait for his instruction. So notice he said he will not. And of course, if you read the Gospels, you find really just that Jesus did not grow weak. Even though you would think at times people would be like, "Oh, forget this. I'm out of here. I'm the Son of God. Why do I got to put up with all this?" The Pharisees were relentless in trying to destroy him, even to the point where they probably think they did when they got the crowds to cry out, "Crucify him," and then Pilate issued the death decree. But of course, that was all the plan of God. All right, verse 5 says, "This is what God, Yahweh, says, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and what comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it and life to those who walk on it." Kind of interesting, he says, who walk on it, because do people have breath after death? No, they don't. I wonder, and now I'm going to say that I have to ask this in a question form. Do any of the other gods proclaim to have created the heavens and the earth and in all things in them? I have to ask because I genuinely don't know, because I haven't studied them that deep. So, but God declares it, and he declares it over and over again. Verse 6, "I, Yahweh, have called you for a righteous purpose. I will uphold you by your hand. I will keep you and appoint you to be a covenant for the people and a light to the nations." He says, in order to open the blind eyes and to bring out prisoners from the dungeons and those sitting in darkness from the prison house. So again, another near far. Did he bring out prisoners from the dungeons? No, not when he came. Will he bring out prisoners from the dungeon? Yet to come. He did order the blind, right? He opened the eyes of the blind. All right. Verse 8, I am Yahweh, that is my name. I will not give my glory to another, and my praise to idols. The past events have indeed happened. Now I declare new events. I announce them to you before they occur. So this again, one of the signature characteristics of God, announcing prior or future events before they happen. Excuse me. Look at verse 8 when he says, I will not give my glory to another. And I say this, if you ever have any encounters with people who deny the nature of Jesus, the sovereignty of Jesus, the deity of Jesus, okay? If Jesus is not God, then he should have been stoned to death. And you'll remember the Pharisees did try to in John chapter 8. His response to that was, he said, which one of these good works do you stone me for? And the reason why Jesus asked that is because the works testified to who he was. And watch this. Remember, as we're reading this in Scripture, they testify to the nature of Jesus, right? He will be a kind of a meek person. He will open the eyes of the blind, unstop the deaf ears, make the lame to walk. So he says, now this is written here. We're reading this, again, 800 years before it happened. So now and then his challenge to the Pharisees is, when I say I'm the Son of God, why are you trying to kill me for saying that? And then, because you have to go back to say, now, if Jesus is not God, he would have deserved to have been stoned, because notice what God is saying here. I will not give my glory to another. Right? So, as Christians, as the apostles who worshipped Jesus, they would have been in great error. They would have been breaking the first commandment. Except for Jesus fit the criteria of the Son who could be worshipped. Okay? So in verse 10 it says, sing a new song to the Lord. Sing his praise from the ends of the earth. You who go down to the sea with all that fills it. You islands with your inhabitations. Let the deserts and the cities shout. The settlements where Kedar dwells cry aloud. Let the inhabitants of Selah sing for joy. Let them cry from the mountaintops. Let them give glory to the Lord and declare his praise in the islands. The Lord advanced like a warrior. He stirs up his zeal like a soldier. He shouts. He roars aloud. He prevails over his enemies. I have kept silent from ages past. I have been quiet and restrained myself. But now I will groan like a woman in labor, gasping breathlessly. I will lay waste mountains and hills and dry up the vegetation. I will turn rivers into islands and dry up marshes. Now, remember, this is the song that he is singing. So Hebrew songs are a lot different than the songs we are used to, with the way that they're structured. I'm not a songstress, so I cannot go into give great detail than this. So forgive me for that. But like the rhyme, meter, like that. And notice they just tell a story, but they're singing it. So you can kind of imagine that this would be music to it, and maybe not, but they would be singing this. Verse 16, I will lead the blind by the way they did not know. I will guide them on the path they have not known. I will turn darkness to light in front of them, and the rough places into level ground. This is what I will do for them, and I will not forsake them. They will return back and utterly ashamed. Those who trust in idols and say to metal plate images, You are our gods. Okay. Look at verse 18 now. Listen, you deaf. Look, you blind, so that you may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf like my messenger I am sending? Who is blind like my dedicated one, or blind like the servant of the Lord? Though seeing many things, you do not obey. Though his ears are open, he does not listen. Now, this is kind of a rebuke to Israel and to anyone who hears the word of the Lord and knows the Lord. Verse 21, the Lord was pleased because of his righteousness to magnify his instruction to make it glorious. But this is a people plundered and looted, all of them trapped in holes or imprisoned in dungeons. They have become plunder with no one to rescue them, and loot, and no one saying, give it back. Who among you will pay attention to this? Let him listen and obey in the future. Who gave Jacob to robbers and Israel to plunderers? Was it not the Lord? Now this is kind of interesting that, notice again, God is in control. God is the one who gave Israel to over to their sin, and I'm going to say for their sin. Now look at this. Who gave Jacob to the robber and Israel to the plunderers? Was it not the Lord? Have we not sinned against him? Right? And right here, keep this in mind, that this is the reason for judgment. This is the reason for judgment. Have we not sinned against him? When people say, well, man, sometimes when judgment happens to people, it is always sad to see. Even if they deserve it, and you watch it, sometimes when you capture them in that moment, now we're going to see this in the book of Jeremiah, okay? So you look at this here. God is warning them. This is, remember, this is about 115 years before their demise. They will not repent. They will not turn. And when we see it, it's going to be pathetic, sad. But notice what he says right here. Who gave Jacob to the robber and Israel to the plundered? Was it not the Lord? Why? Have we not sinned against him? They were not willing to walk in his ways, and they would not listen to his instruction. So he poured out on Jacob his furious anger and power of war. It surrounded him with fire, but he did not know it. It burned him, but he paid no attention. Now again, we're going to see this in the next book, right? And as I said, it is always sad to, when you see a person fall into, even if they deserve it, they fall into peril. Okay? But notice here, because whenever people want to condemn God and say that God is unjust, if you were living in Israel at the time of Jeremiah, and then you say, why is all of this happening to me? And it's going to be a brutal, cruel conquering. There was a time, and this story is in 2 Kings, where things were so bad because of their sin. There was such a severe famine that they resort to cannibalism. And the reason why we have these stories is because you see how people can be reduced to their base nature. If you ever watch some of the not apostolic, apocalypse movies, TV series, they don't even show the half of it. Like The Walking Dead, right? They don't even show the half of it. But you see that how when you combine a sinful people to hard times, and then what is even sadder is when they even don't turn to the Lord. So they end up doing despicable things. Like I said, cannibalism. Whatever the story where these two ladies had two children, they made a pact. The two ladies did, right? Hey, let's kill you. We got two kids here. Food, right? Kill yours today, we eat your son, and then the next day we eat yours. And she go, bet. We can do that. Yeah. Okay, so they killed the one son, eat the son. Then when it came time to kill her son, she was kind of like, oh, wait a minute now. I'm not going to kill my son. And then they actually went to the king, and the king was kind of walking by and said, hey, king, I need justice. And said, what's wrong with you? He said, well, and he told the story, and he looked like, oh my God. This is the conditions that's coming for them. Have we not sinned against him? It's what they won't reckon, however. Even in our world today, we won't reckon that. Have we not sinned against the Lord? They were not willing to walk in his ways. This is even more, of course, damning for Israel because they did have the Lord. They were not willing to walk in his ways. They would not listen to his instructions. So had they did that, how blessed of a nation would they have been? They had the example of that. They had times when they were blessed, but they refused. And how sad it was for them. So he said he poured out on Jacob his furious anger and the power of war. Now, actually, they've already seen this time and time again. Time and time again. All right, guys. We'll pick it up with the next study, chapter 43. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought, a comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I will see you in the next study.